In this part 2 of our Boston Hall preset design, we're going to take everything we learned about the Hall sound in part 1 and put it all together inside the LX480 to dial in that sound. So we saw from the impulse response that we're going to need 4 pairs or 8 taps of early reflections. Now Random Hall only actually has 6 or 3 per side, so I have to get creative. I go to Setup, go into the dual stereo mode, and that allows me to layer engine 1 and engine 2, giving me up to 12 taps in total, but I'm only going to use 8. Now you see here I have delay 1 at 1, 3 at 12, 5 at 22, but I said the early reflections were at 25, 36, and so on. And that's because diffusion values actually add extra delay time to these taps, which is why I used an impulse response to dial them in perfectly. Next, I set the relative levels of the early reflections. And here's a cool feature that's only in Random Hall HD, is I have an early reflection to reverb tail ratio, and I dial that in based on my reference to actually bring that tail way down because there's such heavy reflections versus the tail in this sound. I have my diffusion set to 30%. Remember, this diffusion value also impacts where these taps happen. So if I increase that diffusion, it's actually going to delay these taps. So there's a careful balance between the amount of diffusion and where these taps happen. Next thing I did was dial in the reverb multipliers. A lot of low end in this hall, so I crank it up to about 1.4 and I bring down the high end to about 0.8. You can dial these in by ear depending on your mix needs. And then I also added a little extra filtering in the high end as well. And notice I'm not using any pre-delay. I'm going to use shape to control the bloom of the tail. And remember, it's the time of that first reflection that I'm concerned with. Now let's listen again. Here's that dull, boring piano sound. And listen to what it does. It just brings it to life. Now, one thing I hope you notice that even though we have a reverb time of 2 seconds and loud early reflections, the clarity of the source sound is maintained. And that's due to the careful timing of that first reflection. Random Hall HD takes that lexicon DNA and uses the processing power of modern computers to give you a reverb that has a quality that I think can compete with the best of the best hardware reverb units. Don't take my word for it. Grab the LX480 and the Random Hall HD algorithm and experiment with those early reflection delay taps and discover for yourself what this reverb can do. And as always, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.